Welcome, Internet, to the PixelPlay Podcast, your weekly gaming podcast for gamers by gamers. I am one of your co-hosts, Kaylan, aka Catastrophe, joined by this week, the classic duo, Adam at CS Radical. And Chris, Chris at Gin and Chris can't be here, because he was looking at the sun without glasses during the eclipse or something. Nah, he's actually out just with a cold, but either way, we thought we'd go on without him and do a classic PixelPlay duo. If you are new to the podcast, Adam and I started this, almost 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago? It's been a while.
Like right around COVID.
Yeah. So, oh my God, it's been 3 years. So yeah, it used to just be Adam and I, and then we brought Chris in. So now it's back to the classic duo. This week, we're going to be talking about who we think are the 10 most influential characters in gaming history. If you like that and you want to hear more, we post podcasts every week at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search for us, PixelPlay Podcast. We also do it with video on Spotify and YouTube. Just search PixelPlay Podcast. If you want to be part of the show, if you want to submit tips, if you want to talk to us or talk to other fans like yourself, you could also find them and us on Discord or social media at linktr.ee/PixelPlay Podcast. With that being said, Adam, how are you doing?
Not doing too bad. Just enjoying this eclipseless weather now that it's over. I mean, our 90 seconds of fame are done. You know, it was cool for a moment. I have some people that are like, look, I'll start hot, right?
Yeah.
Are we gonna give a shit about what we saw in about a month's time, let alone a year? Because it was cool in the moment, but like I don't think this is something I'm gonna still be talking about in like a week.
I don't think it's like something that's going to drastically change your life, but I mean, I think it's something that is really cool. If you got to experience it and you weren't in a cloudy area like myself, like it was a really cool experience. Even myself just being there where I saw everything get dark and the temperature drop, like it was really cool.
Yeah, it was a cool thing to experience once, but like the way that some people have acted, it's like this monumental, like you'll never forget it sort of event. I'm like, I'll forget this pretty quick. I'll be real here.
I don't know. I liked it. It's kind of like I'm a nerd. I like this kind of space stuff. Like, it'll be one of those things I probably will remember for the rest of my life. Like, I remember there's like one instance where I was a kid and there was like this meteor shower that was supposed to be like one of the most epic meteor showers of all time. And my dad woke my sister and I up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And did it change my life? No, but I still think about that night of like seeing all that, and I think it's just those cool moments that remind us of like our insignificance in the entire cosmos and stuff. And like, fun fact, apparently we are one of, if not like the only planet in like space, like for us to have a moon that fits the exact size as the sun, like from the distance that, like, it is such a unique thing that I've heard. It's like 1 in a trillion something odds that it actually happens. So like, it's kind of cool that we were able to kind of experience that.
Yeah, it's cool to think about it. It's my only argument is, hey guys, I'm going to remember something that happened in a video game way more than I'm going to remember. Like, I'm going to be mostly thinking like, the ring kind of looks like the ring from The Expanse when I saw the when I saw the eclipse, and that's about where my brain still went. I still immediately hooked it to something different.
It's the cover of Heroes.
Now, did you see anything about NASA streaming it?
No.
It was the cringiest thing I think I've ever seen, which is probably also why my opinion of the eclipse is lower. It's embarrassing to watch a bunch of grown people, you know, sitting at like Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which is where I was specifically getting annoyed at. And there's all these people like freaking out over this. And then there's these couple announcers being like, this is like the greatest moment in American history. And I'm like, Or like, this is such a great moment for America. And I'm like, okay, first off, the patriotism, enough, please. But also, second, you're from NASA. You guys have landed shit on Mars, and you're just talking about something that we had no part in. And you're like, this is so amazing. I'm like, guys, the moon just basically got in the sun's way. That's not, when you really think about it, it's not that impressive. It just looks fucking cool.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, that's
people oversold it a lot. That's my big thing. Is holy shit, guys. It's just a black spot over a white spot. Come on now.
Yeah.
Like, it was basically an Oreo, guys. Chill.
Yeah. Other than watching the Eclipse, what else have you been up to this week? What have you been watching? What have you
We'll
been
talk
playing?
a bit more on the side quests. I started powering through a bunch of shit. I finished 2 games that were very, very quick to beat. I've got like another 2 or 3 that I could probably finish relatively soon in the way that I'm going with these 2. I've basically been on a kick of like I've got nothing that I need to play that is 40, 50 plus hours. Let's start just cutting some shit out now. And there's a couple of games I tried. Glad I finally got around to trying them because I wasn't too big into them. Now it doesn't have to be in my brain anymore. So it's cool. But at this point, I'm like, let's just try to get through as many of these like 5 to 10 hour games as we can and just start putting a dent in this list before anything else big captures my attention or is free on Game Pass out of nowhere.
Yeah. And we'll do that. We'll go do a rapid fire review kind of thing in.
Yeah, for anybody that's curious,
so
there were 2 games that I'm going to review on that. One of them is Open Roads, which is recently put on Game Pass, and then the other one is a very small indie game called Between Horizons, which is a sci-fi detective game. If you're curious about that.
Cool. I've got the complete opposite route that you are. I am still on Baldur's Gate. I am 40 or 50 hours in. I have just pretty much wrapped up Act 2, so I'm 2/3 of the way through the game.
I mean, you say you're just in that, but like, let's be honest. If you were going through a 5 to 10 hour game, you'd still at least need like 2 or 3 episodes at your rate.
Yeah, 100%. I don't finish games fast. We both know that. But yeah, I am liking it. The hooks are in a lot more. I really am enjoying it. I know last week I had some concerns, and those concerns are still there and are still valid, but it's great. The hooks are in a lot more, and I'm liking it. I don't know if I agree with all the hype and all the, fervor around this game. I think there are some issues, and I'll talk about that when I actually do finish the game. But overall, I am liking it a whole lot more, and I am going to see this through to the finish, which will probably be in about 3 months.
Well, that's assuming that nothing else completely interrupts you. I don't know, like Rise of the Ronin looks pretty shiny over there in the corner.
What?
I said Rise of the Ronin's looking pretty shiny over there in the corner.
That's my carry. See, I'm one of those people, once I start a game, it is very rare for me to like drop out and not finish it before moving on to the next thing. And so I'm going to finish this before I go to Rise of the Ronin. Rise of the Ronin is the carrot in front of me to like finish Baldur's Gate.
So what you're saying is like, I'm trying to think, have you finished anything that would have been from last year yet? I'm trying to remember all the reviews you've done so far.
So far this year, I have beaten Mario Wonder.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So I think we found your Jin and Chris classic probably for this year, considering you didn't finish it until this year.
Well, Baldur's Gate also technically was last year as well.
Yeah, but the way that you sell Wonder, it's like it makes it sound like it's your shoe-in now because you talk it's like you're the best Mario game you've played. I think were your words.
I think that's going to be the case. Like I said, if I had played that last year, that probably would have been my game of the year for 2023.
I've been joking with Chris. Like, as it currently stands, my Jin and Chris classic is American Arcadia, which I said at the top of the year would have been my game of the year had I not finished it late. And Helldivers is currently my actual game of the year for 2024. And I keep saying to Chris, I don't know if anything's beating these two, because the longer I get in, the more and more that I'm like, there's nothing. Like, it's gonna have to be something coming out of nowhere now, because everything that's coming down the pipeline, like, I'm a big Trails guy. I don't think the new Trails into Daybreak in July is going to take Helldivers. Like, as a guy who's even, like, super biased towards this series, I don't think it's going to. And, like, it's one of those things that with that and for American Arcadia, I'm like, holy crap, like, it's crazy from a gamer standpoint being like, I don't know if anything beats this, and you just keep, like, getting ready to see if something comes out, and every time you go, you're like, nope, not even close again. And you're just sitting there being like, can anybody challenge this? I have like 8 more months.
Yeah, that's the thing. I completely agree. Like, I'm thinking of the games that are coming out that I'm going to play. Like, the only ones I can think of, like, I want to play Rise of the Ronin, but I don't think that Rise of the Ronin is going to be better than Helldivers. Like, I think I am going to like Rise of the Ronin because it's a open world samurai game. It's basically more Ghost of Tsushima, but I don't think it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be something that I enjoy. I don't think it's going to be better than Helldivers. And then the only other one that I can think of that might be have a shot is Star Wars Outlaws. But
I don't even think that's dated yet still, because I think a big part of it too is going to be like by the time we get to like late May, early June, when we start getting the faux E3 streams, where we start seeing stuff that's going to be releasing in the second half of the year is when we might have a better sense of it. But like in terms of what we know and in terms of what might pop up at the end of this year, like my brain is still going, I don't know if there's that thing, at least for me personally, that stands out as like being a good chance of doing it. Because like I thought that was going to be a remake, and you know it faltered at certain spots that kind of cause it to fall a bit. And like at this point, like I don't know if there's that like automatic, oh, that's going to be in the running sort of game yet. I mean, granted, I'm sure if we get a good list of stuff that's coming out in September, October, November, you know, I'll have a better idea of that. But as it stands right now, it's like, I mean, look, it's not a bad problem to have that you've already gotten to play one of your favorite games of the year very early, but it also means like you're sitting for the rest of the year going, come on, I want something as good as that.
So apparently today the release date got announced during the trailer reveal, and it is coming out August 30th. So
okay, so at least we got something for August.
We've got a date, and we've got runway for it to be delayed into November.
Yeah, there you go.
So, there's not much else that's coming out. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna get to Dragon's Dogma 2. I am not playing Final Fantasy. I'm not playing Yakuza. So, like, I'm gonna try that. So the only other ones that I'm gonna like that are on my radar is I'd like to play the new Prince of Persia one. That one has been getting really cool reviews and stuff, but we'll see.
Yeah, there's I'm trying to think of like. I feel like at this point it's going to come to be something that's a little outside of the norm. Because, I mean, obviously Helldivers fell into that. American Arcadia was a very unique game. Open Roads, which I'll talk about in the side quest, had a much more of an emotional hit. So that does very well in that aspect. There's a game I'm playing right now that I'll probably end up reviewing in maybe a couple of weeks at the rate I'm going. It's called Voice of Cards. And it's basically like a card, like turn-based JRPG. That instead of like your usual like you go walk around and fight monsters, it straight up plays like a card game, and even you traversing the world is like a card where you're going like you're taking a like a chess piece and going from card to card. It's like you're scaling the map, and the way that it's done that is so unique for the type of game that it is, because most JRPGs you just assume is like Final Fantasy, where it's 3 or 4 characters, fight, magic, item, whatever. But instead, they play it in a similar way to a card game where there is that typical JRPG format, but it also has like a bit of a card element to it. So it does like change the format up enough that I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. It's not like amazing yet. Maybe there's a hook that gets me later, but like as a concept, I'm like, damn. Like that's kind of the thing that's been nice about, you know, and I've said this before about having things like Game Pass or taking stabs at more indie stuff, is that you start to get a bit more of a sense of like what you actually are looking for these days. Because there's always that sense too of like gaming paralysis, where it feels like no matter what you try, there's just a constant stage of, man, like nothing's clicking.
Are you gonna the other one that's been getting a lot of traction this year is Bellatra, that poker?
It's on my radar, but like it just hasn't interested me as much. So it's more of like hey, if it's on Game Pass or something where I can get it for free, like I'll go for it.
Yeah, it's something.
But I have a lot of people that will not shut up about it. So
I know, I hear about it all the time. So yeah, what about? Did you also hear that the new Fallout show is coming out a day earlier and it's coming out tomorrow?
I saw that. Admittedly, I'm not psyched for it, but if the reviews end up being really, really good, maybe I'll take a look at it. Because like for the same reason that I have friends that told me like the new season of Halo is really good, but I'm like, I've been zoned out of Halo for like 10 years. You're not really going to get me back in the door now. Fallout is in a similar base where like my interest in Fallout has waned over the last decade. Really since like Fallout New Vegas was the last time I truly enjoyed one. So like, I'm not nearly as psyched to say I would have been, you know, even 5 years ago, I might have been a little more interested. Now it just, it doesn't really do it the same way.
I have no insight into like what this show is going to be, but I think we talked about it a long time ago in one of our episodes. I feel like Fallout is one of the like video game franchises that would translate well into a TV show, because there's no real set story. You don't have a story that you need to replicate. Like Fallout is just a environment. It's just a world that you can create stories in. It doesn't. You have like the factions. You have the characters. Those, well, you don't have characters, but you have factions and stuff that you need to kind of be mindful of, or that you have to kind of do, you know, pay homage to. But like you can make whatever the hell story you wanted to. Like we talked about, like there was a YouTube channel called like it was like a Fallout YouTube short, and it was really good. Or it's not short, it was like a YouTube series. So I think this one has potential to do well. We'll see, but I'm excited.
Mm.
Adam, let's jump into this week's topic. We were going through and we were going to talking about the 10 most influential characters in video games. So what we were kind of looking at is who are some of the characters in video games that impacted or had the biggest impact in gaming or became kind of clones for it. Some caveats for the rules. We were looking at, I think we were talking about that it can't be games from like, it can't be like a licensed IP, so no like Batman or anything like that, and no real life celebrities.
Sorry, Johnny Silverhand, I tried.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's some good ones though if you really wanted to go celebrity wise. Like I had, like when we were talking initially, I just put like a master list of like a shit ton of characters that I thought had influence, and immediately like I had one specifically that was celebrities, and I had Mike Tyson, which was like basically the original, and then Joker, Mark Hamill specifically because that's just iconic in every way. Johnny Silverhand as being the new one. And then the two like ones that either people forget about or maybe don't know, Tommy Vercetti from Vice City because that's Ray Liotta. And then Elusive Man from the Mass Effect series, which was Martin Sheen, which is, in my opinion, one of the best of the recent celebrity ones. And I'm like, that's a pretty solid list of even just 5. But like, yeah, like even to put him up against like some of the classics we'll get into, like there's just, even then, I don't even think you could put any of them in a top 10.
Well, I think Elusive Man would have been an interesting choice because he wasn't. Who was like the first person when they like got a celebrity and actually did their facial capture, like that it looked like them portraying it? Was it like Elliot Page?
I'm trying to think how far. That's a good question. I don't actually know the answer because I'm trying to think. I mean, Phil Collins was in like Vice City Stories on the PSP.
Yeah.
So like there's Shaq would be like one of the earlier ones with Shaq Fu.
Oh yeah.
But like Mike Tyson, I mean, I guess if you're looking like actually looking like their character, because I mean, Mike Tyson
it's not
again
like just inspired, but it's like, hey, that like we actually like looked at this person and then kind of made a character.
But like actually one for one, like making it look exactly like them. That's a different question, which would be so much harder to figure out.
Yeah, we should do that one day, like best cameos in games. But anyways, so that was the parameters
I could
that we
spend
had
an hour on that. Good lord, that's another episode
I'm
making. We'll wait until Chris decides to look at the sun too much again.
So what I figured we could do is we could kind of go through and just talk about some of we can go through our list, and then I want to do is I want to make a definitive list for us who are the top 10 most influential. So I figure we can kind of go through, name our list, and then we can kind of then put them kind of head to head and kind of build out that list and justification.
Yeah, because if you got any duplicates of mine, then we can already have them as like, okay, those are probably going to be on the list, and then we'll go from there with anything that's
exactly left.
So why don't you, because I'll be keeping track of everything, so why don't you give me your list first, and I'll start typing these down.
You want me to just do my whole list?
Yeah, just do your whole list, and then I'll do mine, and then we'll start talking about the ones that we matched up with, and then we'll finish up and figuring out with the ones that we didn't match, what we want to slide in there.
Okay, so number 1, I have The Sims.
Okay, yeah.
Number 2, I have it in no particular order. Solid Snake.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is gonna be a cop out, and you might or might not accept this. Joel and Ellie from The Last of Us.
We'll see.
And I can cut one if I need to, but I kind of talked about it in the dynamic, and we'll deal with that.
I'm not gonna spoil anything.
Samus from Metroid.
Okay, there was my first duplicate.
Pikachu.
Okay.
Crash Bandicoot.
Okay.
Marcus Phoenix.
Okay.
From Gears of War. Nathan Drake.
Mm-hmm.
Peach.
Okay.
And Mario.
Okay, so somehow we only got 2 duplicates, which was Samus and
Nice.
Mario.
See, this is why it's great. This is why this podcast works so well.
Now here, let me tell you about all the ones you got wrong. Okay. So not counting Mario and Samus, so I also have Link.
Okay.
Kirby.
Okay.
Lara Croft.
Okay.
Chun-Li.
Mm-hmm.
Sephiroth.
Okay.
Nemesis.
Where's he from?
Resident Evil 3.
Thank you. Okay.
Cloud Strife.
Okay.
And Master Chief.
Okay. I want to. So how do you want to do this? You want to like kind of eliminate
So I mean, at
some
this
from our
point,
list?
Samus and Mario are the easy ones. Mario is
Yeah.
like the most famous character of all. Everything that has started and ends with him. And then
Okay.
Samus is like the original female in gaming. In the same way that like a lot of people look at what Ripley is from the Alien series, Samus is to that with gaming. So those two
Yeah.
are the absolute easy ones. And then it's just a matter of seeing like the importance of other ones. So like for example, I'll give you one that I have a counter to with Pikachu, for example.
Okay.
I picked Kirby over Pikachu because I thought without Kirby, there is no Pikachu. There isn't that cuddly, cute character to start with because Kirby kind of. Because this is where the question comes in, right? Like, what's influential mean to us? I think if you're talking like the most recognizable, most famous, it's Pikachu, and it's not even close.
Mm-hmm.
But my thought process when I did, and I had Pikachu on my master list, but I picked Kirby over it because I thought, well, if you don't have Kirby, who is an infinitely mascot-ridden character that has traveled over generations now, that I don't know if the designs for Pikachu go the same way. But it really is just like, which way do you want to go with it? Because I think one of those two need to go in there as like the de facto mascot,
Agreed.
like cute mascot of the influence.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of which one. Because the only other one that came close to that to me was like, you had a Crash, I had Spyro, but I think that both of those two are too niche in the end to be included into a list of 10. I also had Pac-Man, but Pac-Man has not been relevant in so long that I don't think it carries the same weight anymore.
Well, I don't even think it like it was a cool character, but like I think Mario does more because I think we both put Mario as like the mascot jumper kind of thing. The reason why I went with Pikachu over why I would put Pikachu over Kirby is that while Kirby is like Kirby's cute enough and stuff, but I think I put Pikachu more as like the whole Pokemon as a whole, the cute like, hey, look at all these cute little creatures that you can collect and like raise and everything. And Pikachu was just so like prolific in the sense of like it was a mascot. It represented like all of the collectible like animals. So like it wasn't necessarily just Pikachu of itself, but just like the representing the whole Pokemon kind of thing. So that's why I kind of went with that. It's not necessarily the cute mascot. While Pikachu does hit that number, I think it's more about, you know, the collect them all, kind of building up a team and like collecting animals and getting them to like do your bidding.
Yeah, like if you had to swing me one way or the other, I don't think it really matters. It's just one of those two seem to make sense to be on a list of 10. It's just a matter of which direction you want to go in. I think for the sake of like who carries the most influence now, it's easily Pikachu, so I think it makes it on that basis. My only argument, like I said, was that I don't think Pokemon exists without the framework of having characters like Kirby having that staying power.
I was going more like I think I don't see I think more people have copied Pokemon than who have copied Pikachu. I see how one could have been inspired by the other, but I don't necessarily see the link there. So I think Pikachu might edge out just a little bit over Kirby.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that.
Okay. The one I wanted to bring up with you was Lara Croft because I think that she's fitting in the same place that that Samus is in a like female character lead. That's where I was kind of going with Samus in the sense of like female protagonist sort of main character. She's the first. I mean, granted, I'm not giving Miss Pac-Man recognition as like a female lead character, but I put Samus as the
I think you
lead
honestly though need both of them because Samus is not nearly as influential to young women as Lara is.
Okay.
In the way that like Lara was someone that you physically saw face to face, whereas Samus was usually in a suit the entire time. So it was more like Samus was the cool character that just you were surprised by the fact that she was a woman, where Lara was like one of the early days of, this is a badass woman. And this is what the framework is going forward. Because, I mean, you don't have, for example, you don't have Ellie or Aloy and characters like that without Lara Croft. And I think that that's the framework that a lot of people go off. I mean, shit, you don't even get Nathan Drake without Lara Croft.
You know what? Yeah, I'm with you. I'll give you Lara Croft.
I mean, like, I got to win at some point.
Hey, I'm not going to say no to a good idea when I see one. Now, the one I want to put on there that you didn't have on yours, and we can eliminate her if you want, but I put Peach. In the sense that you have Mario, it's an iconic, character, mascot character, like so influential. I put Peach in there because she's unique in that I think it's like the first time where it's like you have a damsel to go and rescue or save. Like I don't know if we had those like rescuing like a character from.
Yeah, I mean, my only argument to that would be, is that really influential, or is that just a trope that was reused over and over again? Because my argument to be with that, like, don't get me wrong, Peach is a very recognizable character, but I don't know if a lot of people look at her as like in the same way that we look at other characters, like, oh, like this is the most influential character that's been made in a long time. Like, I think people just go like, I remember Peach and like is very recognizable, but I don't think a lot of people use Peach as a framework for anything.
Okay.
Especially now that we look at how we write female characters way differently. I think if this was, say, like 20 years ago, you could make a different case, but I think today there's so many better female characters that you would put as an influential over that. Like shit, even if I was going to today, like I still would say, I listed Chun-Li, which I don't think will fit on this list, but I think Chun-Li also stands out as being like a much more influential character, even like a Mai Shiranui from King of Fighters. Even though it's the sexy trope, but it's still something that is still used in some shape or form as being like an influence to how women are either portraying themselves in real life on, or how they're being made today. I don't think you see nearly as many Peaches anymore.
Fair enough. I completely agree. What was one that you had on your list?
So, which way do I want to go with it here? I mean, we can figure out if we want to put Link in there right away or not, because I think Link is just a case of, it's just the de facto adventure palette.
Yeah,
that's the one that I kind of put there in the same way that like you just put Mario on there, because it's like it's the two most familiar characters that we have out there. And also too with like how Link has been one that's very subtly but also very drastically changed its style over the years. And it's caused a bunch of different shifts. Like obviously, your kid heroes, then you have like, the more adult badass sort of heroes, not like in the sense of like a Kratos level badass, but in the sense of like, being able to handle the weight of the world on their shoulders kind of setup. Because like I put Cloud Strife in there. I would push Cloud off the list over Link, because I don't think without Link that a character like Cloud, where it's like the pretty boy hero, can go anywhere. Because Cloud today is so influential on so many characters in terms of the pretty boy, guy that all the chicks want to go after. Like basically every JRPG protagonist alone is basically model for Cloud today. Every Fire Emblem character owes their design to Cloud in some aspect. But I think at the same time, Cloud owes everything he has to Link, because Link is one of the original pretty boy with a sword gimmicks.
See, I'm inclined to put Cloud on there versus Link. Now, hear me out. I know that someone is like record scratch. Like,
I mean, I'm not going to argue if you want to say Final Fantasy, they're king, but
well, here's my thing. So, like, Legend of Zelda is a influential game. It's an iconic game. Link is an iconic character, but I don't know if he's influential. Like, I can't.
And that's where you can make a good argument.
Yeah, like I don't think I could think of another character that I look at and be like, that's Link. Whereas I think Cloud, like when I think of a JRPG main character, I'm thinking the spiky hair, the obnoxious sword, like anemic to the point, like skinny kind of character that like I could think of at least 3 characters that are based off of Cloud.
You're right. We need more feminine looking elf guys as heroes in games to really start to prove that again. Where are all those?
So I'd put Cloud over Link myself.
That works for me. So that puts us up to 5 potentially. So we've gone through a couple of years. The one that I was torn between, I actually had Snake as my 10th, and then I switched to Chun-Li for different reasons. So why don't we deal with Snake here?
Okay. So I put Solid Snake, and granted he was low on my list.
Because I guess you could put him up next to Master Chief as being like the modern day like influence, right?
Yeah, and I went with like Master Chief. I did not put on my list because I kind of figured that.
Because I guess actually, we could probably even just loop Marcus Phoenix and like have the 3 of them next to each other as being like the modern day,
this
like
is my thing,
badass with a gun, like military badass.
Yeah, so I think that Marcus, I don't know, like I
mean, if I had to
Chief,
pick one between the 3 of them, you go with Snake just because facially it's like it gives you more of like a template for
grizzled war
the
veteran,
look.
right?
Whereas like I mean, if we were going to put Master Chief in, you would just have a better argument to put Doom Guy in versus Master Chief. Who now that I think about it, I don't know why is not on my list.
I was like, I didn't put Master Chief because I felt like there's other like
It's also
military in a
just a
mask
suit of
kind of thing.
armor.
It's a suit of armor, and like there's no personalization there. Like I would either put like Samus kind of covered that a little bit, like
That's also true, yeah.
right. And then I also thought of like Solid Snake, that grizzled war veteran. Like he basically looks like Splinter Cell. He looks like that grizzled war guy. And then I put Marcus Phoenix in there for the large grizzled like Space Marine kind of thing. But I think of those three, I think I would probably go Solid Snake.
I could agree with that too, and thankfully too that look, some people may say Marcus Phoenix might be influential. I go, thank God he really isn't anymore, because that type of character was really dull and boring.
Okay,
I don't miss the brown and gray area of our gaming industry for that like 5-year period.
Flipping over to the opposite end of that spectrum, we had the big chiseled grizzly, like grumpy military guy. I brought in Nathan Drake because there was a period from like 2007 till about, I mean, maybe 2014, where you had the handsome, chiseled, smart alecky adventurer.
Now, my only argument to that would be, I mean, it's the archetype is one thing, you know, in terms of his personality. My only thing was, do we have Nathan Drake on a list that already includes Lara Croft? Because it's basically that minus the like the over the top quippy banter.
I don't know, because
like I sit here with Nathan Drake and go, that seems like something that you put to the side, and if there's room, you can slide him in there. Whereas like I don't know if I immediately think that he should out of the 20 that we have. Well, I shouldn't say 20 because we had we had 18
or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess my thing is like I look at Lara Croft, and granted, not the most like hasn't aged well, but like she was a serious kind of like hero, kind of like not inspiration, but like a good not a good representation, but like she represented kind of like female heroes and stuff. Whereas I feel like Nathan Drake is different in that it's the archetype of the quippy, handsome, like rapscallion, almost like a Han Solo, that I think you got so many of. Like it was just, we got inundated with them. Like I can think of at least 3 or 4 characters that are just basically ripoffs of Nathan Drake, who is also a ripoff of Indiana Jones. I'm not saying he's unique, but I think he stands alone as a unique character that was copied a lot for a while.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I'll put him there.
Put him on the list.
As like something on standby, and we'll see what we got with the rest. I mean, to go through the rest of your list, because we don't have much left, I personally don't see Crash at all. I think Crash is too fringe for that, and I don't think the influence is nearly as strong.
Well, I was just kind of thinking, because like you got into, and like this is where we draw the line of like mascot characters, because I thought Crash Bandicoot kind of started the animal side of mascot things, where you started getting things like Jack and Daxter, where you started getting things like Sly Cooper, like the animal side of mascots. But I don't know if that's just a continuation of what Mario started.
Yeah, but I also would say that it's not as influential because it only really had a small period before it left. I don't think it's nearly as transformative, because like it was there for the early days of PS1 and PS2, and it really hasn't stuck since then. I mean, Ratchet's tried to come back and it's been okay, but it hasn't really stuck. It's one of those things that I don't know if it's...
I'm going to throw one out there, and I think this covers kind of this base, and it brings up something we haven't talked about yet. Spyro. Now, Spyro isn't necessarily influential in the sense of like the mascot character, but wasn't Spyro also the first one that did like that toys to game kind of collectible thing?
Well, the Skylanders thing?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the first one I remember being aware of, but I'm sure somebody else tried it and failed long before that, and we just don't remember.
Okay. And I guess this raises the question, is this a character thing, or is that a influential game mechanic?
Yeah, I wouldn't, at least with Spyro, I wouldn't connect Skylanders as being part of them being influential so much as it's just, it was a concept that they used the likeness for.
Okay.
And then the other one...
You had Nemesis on there. What was your argument for Nemesis?
Well, the reason that I picked Nemesis is I try to have like a good variation of things. And I looked as Nemesis as being like, my first thought is, who's the most famous video game like monster? You know, that isn't like, you know, your Slimes from Dragon Quest, or like the ones that like are more mascotty or whatever else. I looked at it and like my choices were it was gonna be one of three. Actually, I'll give you the five that I had just until I had
Okay.
Nemesis, I had Pyramid Head from Silent Hill, which is a visually memorable one, but I don't think influential in the same way. GLaDOS, which again is not that influential because it's still relatively new. Ridley, who I don't think is nearly talked about that all that much, and then the Pac-Man ghosts, which just aren't. They're more just mascot as well. So like when I wanted to include some sort of like what I thought was like the basis for a lot of monster designs, I put Nemesis as being like the only other thing you could go with like the Tyrant as being like the model if that was the case. I just picked Nemesis because I know it's the one that most people think of when they think of Resident Evil, right?
I'm just trying to remember what Nemesis looks like.
That would be Resident Evil 3, where, you know, it's this big hulking guy with a giant-ass machine gun chasing people, or minigun chasing people around.
Okay. I hear you. I don't know, like where would you think?
If I feel like we need to add
be?
to bring more characters into the fray, I have more on the backup side that might be able to fit in, because Nemesis, I just tried to pick to have like, okay, here's a monster. Same reason that I picked Sephiroth. It's like, all right, here's a villain. Here's an influential villain on the basis of what people created to. Because otherwise, like, I could have just simply put Sonic or Donkey Kong or Mega Man, right?
Agreed. So I think having a good villain on there should be a case. I don't know if it's necessarily Nemesis. I think there might be a better argument for Sephiroth. I'm going to throw one other villain on there, and that is oh my goodness, what the heck is his name? I want to say Atlas, but it's not Atlas. The main villain in BioShock.
Well, it's Atlas, aka Fontaine.
Yeah. So I was kind of thinking like that's an interesting character in that. Like,
I mean, I wouldn't call it influential though. I don't think it's been really used as much. More like the storyline of what leads to it is more what's influential with a lot of people. Like you've actually been led to this entire time sort of trope. I would say that the Atlas character is more of a story influence rather than a character influence. Because like if I was going villains, like I mean, apart from your obvious two in Bowser and Ganon that everybody knows, if you got like also Robotnik, but in terms of like ones that I think have been used or at least have like some sort of staying power, Sephiroth is the main one that I think of as like the cool badass villain. And you also have like a Shang Tsung, who's like the, you know, the mystical like dark mage sort of character.
Yeah. The other thing, so I'm thinking of your Sephiroth, and I agree with your argument about Fontaine and Andrew Ryan and stuff. Is Sephiroth not just a copy of like Dracula from the Castlevania series? Like I feel like they are very similar.
I mean, if you're talking the long silver hair and shit, I don't know if Dracula was carrying around a 15-foot sword and walking through fire looking like a bitch.
Because this is your expertise. This is your expertise of JRPG. I agree that like the JRPG villain very much is in line with what Sephiroth was. In the same argument that we have with Cloud when I think of JRPG villains. My question is was there someone that's like, and everything's built off everything. There's no original ideas anymore. But was he just inspired by the look of Dracula from Castlevania?
Well, and then my only argument to that would be like, well, then for other things that we put on this list, like say Pikachu, where there was stuff that came before, like how far back do you go before you go?
You're totally right.
But this is the one that really turned the page, and now everybody uses this as the slate.
Agreed.
Because that's how you got me to switch on Kirby with Pikachu. It's like, okay, yeah, but more people will definitely use Pikachu as the actual, you know, the base now. Whereas like I think now for a lot of people that are looking for the cool villain, especially if you're looking to do the like the pretty boy version of that, Sephiroth is the base for it.
Completely agree. I'm with you on that one.
So that puts us, if we include Nathan Drake, we're at 8. I'm trying to think of what you all the only ones that you had left was Sims and Joel and Ellie. And what did I have?
And I'll make the argument for Joel and Ellie because I feel like that's my.
I think I just said Chun-Li, which I think we can probably push to the side.
Yeah. So my argument with Joel and Ellie, and I know these are two characters, but I think that like they're relatively recent, but I think we've seen it a lot more now in that grizzled, jaded old man and stubborn kid. Like I think
I was gonna say, I think you can get me on this just for the sheer aloneness of it's basically the new base for a like like parent and child, or like at least like two character grouping,
dependent, right? Dependent and caregiver.
Yeah, in the same way that like you obviously have a Kratos and Atreus,
Yep,
and stuff like that. Where I think
yeah,
like
you
now
got Clementine
I don't
from
think
the
they're as
Walking Dead.
influential yet, but I think in what we'll see in the next 10 to 20 years is a different
They
story. And I
are
think that's why
definitely
I
the
think
most
we can make
recent
a case for them.
Okay. And I didn't want to put one or the other because, like, if of the two, I'd probably put Joel over
Well,
Ellie.
I think it makes sense to put them as a package anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the more that I thought it, because I kept staring at it as we were talking, I'm like, the more I think about it, the more that it makes sense, because like as a pairing, like they're the de facto pair and how you do it from now on.
Yeah, the like the what's the word I'm looking for? Not support. What's like the where they're not actually, but they act like they are, the surrogate father,
Like, oh, the surrogate father, yeah,
parent child. Yeah,
Yeah.
the parent child kind of dynamic.
So I guess that just leaves. I mean, I'll straight up say I don't think The Sims works because I don't think they're influential, because they're just what you create them to be. I don't think that's influence.
Well, the thing I had with The Sims is that it started like the whole like you can make yourself, you can replicate, and like that then spawned things like Sims, Mies, like that kind of persona.
Yeah, but I would also say, but then also character creators and so many other games could be used as a default for that. I think that's where it gets tough, because there's not really
Mechanic
like
over
putting
characters,
the Sims
right?
and saying they're influential. It's like, but are they, or is it what you make them to be? So I don't really think they're influential so much as like it's like I think I would put it more in like the concept influence rather than the actual character influence.
Yeah. Now, one character that I've been, as we've been talking, I've been thinking about it and has not shown up on our list. And what about Steve from Minecraft? Because I feel like that is now a whole
I would put that in a
and
similar base to The Sims, because you can change the skin to whatever you want. It's not really just Steve, and most people don't use Steve by the time you get your hands on it. And also, there's not really something to influence from.
I was just thinking like the character design of like the blocky character, the movement now. Like I was watching what the heck was I watching? I was watching something and they had the exact movements of Minecraft and stuff.
Yeah,
So I was just
but
like,
I'd be thinking it more like an influence from an animation or a visual standpoint, whereas like the people we're trying to do here, I think we're trying to do like the total package, right? Where we're looking for like how they look, who they are, you know, what they're designed to be. Like I think encapsulating all of that, it's hard to find me to get behind something that I feel is like one thing and that's it.
yeah.
And I think that's where the challenge is, because now we got to find one more. So like I'll throw a couple other things that I have. So I had Scorpion / Sub-Zero as just being like the archetype for basically every fighting game character out there under the sun. I also had Kratos and Geralt as more of the modern day, you know, grizzled, tough, no one can touch them sort of heroes. I'm trying to think what else really fits. I mean, Jill Valentine is being sort of falls into the same way of like where Lara Croft is, sort of deal. And I think that's where it gets a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
Because most of the other ones I have I think are too new to be considered influential yet.
I mean,
Joel at least in the same way that like Joel and Ellie are like not quite influential yet, but you can see that they're going to be.
All right, I think you make a good argument with the Scorpion and Sub-Zero. What about the other one I can think of? And I'm just spitballing here. I'm not saying I'm down on this hill, but what about like Navi from Legend of Zelda? Like that kind of became a thing of like having side characters that follow you and give tips and hints and stuff. Do you think that's an argument?
Do we want to call it influential when none of us like it? Because like I think where I'm leaning is something towards that fighting game scene, and that's where you get into the Scorpion Sub-Zeros. It's where I do loop back around to Chun-Li, or like say a Ryu and Ken situation.
Say, like, a Ryu or like a Liu Kang, because I feel like, but that's also very generic. That's just fighter guy.
Yeah. I think that's where it gets tricky. Like that's kind of where I'm leading, is I want to fit something in the fighting game aspect, because that's where so many designs have come from. And that's because I'm trying to think of like what is really like the biggest base that so many use nowadays?
Well, I think it's if we're doing fighting, it's either between Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. I think those are the two most influential ones. And if I was going Street Fighter, I think the obvious choice for me is probably Ryu. He's like the one in like the white.
Yeah, white and redhead.
Yeah,
man.
I'd say it's either Ryu or I'd say it's Liu Kang if we're going generic fighter guy. If we're going like ninja aspect, I think it is Sub-Zero and Scorpion. I mean, hell, they just whipped them out. Like Mortal Kombat just kept copying and printing them with just different colors.
That's tough, man.
What about something like Raiden?
No, I don't think Raiden nearly has like the same level of like fondness that a lot of people pull from. Man,
this last one is really tough.
Because now you're basically saying like everything else has got to go. What's the one thing you can fit in there?
So just a quick reminder, we have Mario, we have Samus, Pikachu, Lara Croft, Cloud, Solid Snake, Nathan Drake, Sephiroth, and Joel and Ellie.
Look, I'm not going to complain that I got 2 Final Fantasy characters in there. All from the same game, not to mention the original game that I actually don't think too highly of, which is even funnier in retrospect.
I mean, there's Agent 47, like the bald hitman kind of thing.
Yeah, but we already got Snake.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Oh god. What games have I played? Is there like a robot? Like I want to say like
okay. I could go out on a real like Hail Mary that you probably wouldn't consider right away. And that's Captain Price from Call of Duty. As like one of the de facto like military shooter characters.
Okay. Make your argument.
Well, I mean, look at it. Battlefield, you look at how Call of Duty's gone, like the case of the, grizzled old, veteran, like military ops guy who's just, badass, bushy beard, like, because then you also like, you go into the group of like other people around the area, like you say, your Agent 47s, your Sam Fishers, your, oh my God, why am I blanking? But even like, how a lot of stuff has been done, even just like I said, military shooters in general, like how Brothers in Arms has gone over, how Rainbow Six has done over it. The basis of a lot of it's come to that similar character of like, depending on whether you're going American or British, it's essentially what you look at with Price, and then I think McTavish was still technically SAS, but the way his voice acting was done was still more American than it was European. I'm just throwing darts out there because I'm trying to think of like what else you could use.
I still feel like that still falls under the Solid Snake kind of. Yeah. Slightly, I could see the argument for it, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case.
All right, fine, you got me. The Tetris blocks.
Oh man.
Because like when you look at the list, like we've got 2 really good female empowering characters. We've got 2 really good mascots. We've got 2 cool badass, like, that basically every Japanese game is really tailored off of now. You have, your military guy in Snake. You have your quippy, like, for lack of a better word, your Marvel, like, comedy adventure character in Nathan Drake. And then Joel and Ellie is your current, like, pairing. So it's really just like, what's that missing link now?
What are we missing? Yeah.
That's where it's just such a difficult thing. Like, you're basically saying, like, okay, what thing that isn't nearly as important are we just going to throw in there now? Is
there like a sidekick that we're missing that like is kind of influential?
I think at this point we just go like the Scorpion Sub-Zero route. To be honest,
about Gordon Freeman? What about Gordon Freeman from the Half-Life?
I don't really see influence on that one though. I mean, that's just my opinion. I just see of like, again, like memorable character, but I would even say memorable. It's just no personality that we have.
Yeah. Is there like a character that like was like sympathetic character or something that we could think of? I have no idea.
I'm just trying to go through my brain of like Smash Brothers characters. This is probably worth the best way to take stuff from right now.
Easiest way to go with, yeah.
I think I've pulled every like, because like any of the other characters that I haven't mentioned yet, I had Jill Valentine, I had Leon Kennedy, so there's a couple more Resident Evil ones. I already mentioned Kratos, I already mentioned Geralt. I had John Marston was one that I mentioned.
Yeah.
And then like other ones like Aloy's is too new. Diva from Overwatch, like I think there's a bit now in terms of like how character personality design is done for gacha games.
I like which one is,
because like your Diva or Tracer would be like the two big Overwatch ones that have kind of started that whole hero shooter movement.
Yeah, I would say I think there's an argument there, but I don't know if I would go with Diva. Oh no.
Because Diva is like the encapsulation of gamers too.
Oh my god, yeah.
I think if we want to add one, that might be the way to go if we want to add one more modern take where it's like, yeah, this has basically shaped a lot of characters now with a lot of the games that are coming out.
I would say, yeah, I think Diva is influential, not only just for like encapsulates that whole, oh my camera's going wonky now, great.
Yeah, you're having the fun Twilight Zone lighting going on again.
My system is just overloading. I'm just gonna turn off my camera or turn it back on. I think you know what? I think Diva is a awesome choice for the list simply because so many like Twitch streamers now like go for that style and stuff like that. Yeah.
Honestly, you know what? Overwatch. I'll even make this point too. In terms of influence, I don't think any character has really hit the cosplay crowd nearly as much as she has.
Agreed.
So maybe Cloud. You know what? That gives. What's that?
I say maybe Cloud. I think you get a lot of Clouds out.
Yeah, I mean on the guy side maybe.
Yeah, I'm not saying I agree with your argument, but I think Cloud's a close second. So, okay. So the 10 that we are working with, and I think we're going to keep Nathan Drake just because we struggled so much to get to 10.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do to try to put another one in there. I think I've really run out of brain power now.
Okay, so we've got Mario, Samus, Pikachu, Lara Croft, Cloud, Solid Snake, Nathan Drake, Sephiroth, Joel, and Ellie. Which one do you think should start at number 10?
In terms of influence, I say it's Joel and Ellie only because they haven't had their time to really pull influence yet.
Okay. I think that Joel and Ellie are making more of an impact than like it's short, but I think it's going to be a long running trope that we're going to see.
Yeah, if we're predicting for the future, I would say I would put them higher, but I think if we're doing this today, I think that's where I put them at 10 because their story isn't really written yet. It's more like we know they're going to be influential, but they haven't quite shown it yet.
What about Samus? Because we made that argument, like she's there as like the Space Marine kind of thing, but like we said, Lara Croft is a better role. Like, do you think Samus might be a good option for number 10?
I would still, if I was going to put her anywhere, I'd still put her at 9 because I still think that like the influence that she carries, like I almost would put her higher just on the basis of like she is the blueprint for female characters. It's like that influence is there in the same way that like, are the Beatles like the most influential band, or it's just because they're so far back that so much of their stuff has influenced everything just on the sheer value of how long they've been around for? Because like Samus has a lot of value. I don't think it's nearly as obvious as say a Lara Croft is, but that's because Samus has had essentially 30 years, if not almost 35. I don't even remember when the first Metroid is.
It's probably about 30. Came out like late
1 to 86, so almost 40.
Yeah. For me, I think Joel and Ellie need to go higher. I think that is an obvious one where you can see the influence and like how much it's influenced. For me, the ones that I would put towards the bottom.
Well, then what's our parameter though? Is it the most influential, or is it the just like the ones that could be the most influential? Because I think when you say the words most influential, I think it's kind of indicating that there's influence to be seen.
I think for me, it's like which ones can I think of when I look at that character, I can see, yeah, here are a bunch of characters that were inspired by, that have been kind of paid homage to, and I don't know how many I could think of that's like, oh, that's clearly influenced by Samus.
But I'm not. But again, like I think you're looking as like just the physical aspect of what Samus is. I'm not talking about just that. I'm not talking about design. I'm talking about female heroes.
But I think once again, I think it's one of those like,
because then at that point, like again, is Mario that influential, or is it just the first one that everybody has kind of tried to catch, right?
Well, that's my argument. It's like everyone's trying to catch it, that they're replicating what Mario does, which I would say, I think we could agree Mario's number one, right? Like, I know it's making it come back, but like, are you going to make anyone a case over Mario?
Well, again, like it's thinking about what does influential mean? Because I mean, if that's the parameter for Mario being number one, of being like the one that everybody has been using and trying to chase for that long, why isn't Samus near the top then, if that's the case? Because she's one of the original female characters.
Okay. I'm going to do a quick search. Influential. Okay. Influential. Having influence. Oh, for fuck off, dictionary.com. Like, get out of here. You can't put the word inside the definition.
Because, I mean, if it is just influential, meaning you have influence on things, well, those two have a lot of influence on what the industry's become.
Okay.
Which is also why I put Joel and Ellie much lower on the list, because their influence is yet to happen.
No, it's already happened.
They've been around for maybe 10 years now. When was the first one? Because I know there's like 19 remakes since then.
20... I think it's 2013 is when it came out.
Not the Jesus, Google. The TV show? Really? That's what you think I'm looking for?
No, wait.
Yeah, 2013.
Yeah, I think it was 2013. Yeah, called it. I mean, yeah, it's 10 years. I think we can kind of say, like, there's a lot of games. I could think of a lot of games that kind of use that.
If you wanted me to put an honest 10, I put Snake as 10. If I'm being completely honest, I would put Snake at 10. Because I think military shooter influence is not nearly as strong, because that's a pretty easy thing to replicate. It's a guy in a camo suit and short hair usually.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe an eye patch.
Without a mustache. And without a mustache, maybe.
And a cigarette in his mouth.
Yeah. Okay, agreed. You know what? Maybe instead of like doing rank, maybe we should just kind of see where we should put them.
Well, because I mean, look, if I was doing a top 3 right now, it's Samus, Pikachu, Mario. That would be how I look at it.
I would not put Samus in the top 3.
I know, because you're wrong.
I will give you Mario and Pikachu, but I'm going to put my feet in for Samus. I would put Lara Croft over Samus.
Well, where would you put Samus then? Because if you're saying 9, I'm kicking your ass.
I would put 9. No, I'd say like maybe number 9. I'd put like Diva. I can see the influence, but
that's
like
fine. I could agree
it's
with
not
that.
Everywhere. I'd put Samus somewhere between 3 and 7. Or sorry, 4 and 7. Like,
as it stands, I would put Nathan Drake and Joel and Ellie somewhere interchangeable between 8 and 7. Because again, I'm going based on body of work, which is more modern day, plenty of time to go, but they're not nearly as the body of work is not nearly as long.
I would put number 7. I will put Samus.
I would even put Sephiroth 8, just because villains are its own separate niche.
Well, I put Nathan Drake as 8. I think Nathan Drake is pretty. You can see it, but it's pretty generic as well in terms of like it's just pretty smart talking boy. Like it's a character that we can kind of see being influential, but it's not a unique character that. Will you feel better if I just
put Sephiroth at 7 and put Joel and Ellie at 6, so they're not near the bottom half?
I'll go with that. Yeah, I'll do that. And then I'll give you Samus.
Because like if Samus isn't top 5, I think we're severely shooting gaming history in the foot.
I just think that like of the two, I think Lara Croft had a better
which is why we can put her third then by that logic.
All right, so we'll do Samus, and then I think number 4 we do Cloud.
Yeah, I mean you're basically talking about like Cloud has to be top Cloud, 5
every
because
JRPG
literally
character looks like him.
Basically every Japanese game is modeled off of that now.
Pretty much, yeah. And then number 3. You want to do Pikachu or do you want to do Lara Croft?
I would do Lara Croft, then Pikachu and Mario.
Interesting. Okay. I feel like I would do Lara Croft and then I would do Mario.
I don't think Lara Croft has the level of influence anymore that, say, Pikachu and Mario do, where they basically own the industry in terms of if you're making games that are designed for everyone, that's what you're going off of, is those two.
Okay. So our final ranking then we have at, and correct me if I'm wrong because I know you did your list as well. We have number 10, Solid Snake. Number 9, Diva from Overwatch. Number 8, Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series. Number 7, Sephiroth from the Final Fantasy series. Number 6 is Joel and Ellie from The Last of Us. Number 5, Samus from Metroid. Number 4, Cloud from Final Fantasy. Number 3 is Lara Croft from the Tomb Raider series. Number 2 is Pikachu from the Pokemon series. And number 1 is Mario from the Mario series.
Yeah, that works. I think it's a pretty solid list.
It was
agonizing to get those 10 together, but
you know what? No, it was hard work, but it was necessary work. You know, we are answering science's most important questions here.
Well, and it was necessary but agonizing. So you know what that deserves? A subscribe or a share.
Does. If you were still here, tell you what. If you agree with our list, subscribe. If you don't like our list, you know what the way to tell us? Subscribe so you can tell us how we're wrong by putting something in the comments saying you're wrong.
Yes, we know that we're aware that you don't have to subscribe to comment, but shut up and do it anyway.
Do it anyways. It helps us out. All right, with that, we're going to wrap this week's episode of the PixelPlay Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like that and you haven't subscribed yet, what the heck are you doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Oh, wait. Okay, thank you. Now that you subscribed, we appreciate it. If you want to be further involved with the show, you can always reach out to us at linktr.ee/PixelPlay Podcast. We've got Discords, Instagram, all that fun stuff. You can go in and join us there. We really would appreciate it. We look forward to chatting with you. And with that, we'll talk to you guys next week. Bye for now.